Day 2, Fluttercon. First thing in the morning on day 2 is always a little tricky. Hey, everybody was out partying probably last night, right? Having a good time. So thanks for coming. As Greg mentioned, my name is David DeRemer. I'm the founder and CEO of Very Good Ventures. We founded it back in 2018 officially. It's just really nice to see you all and to be here again today. And frankly, honored to be here in New York City, in Queens, as the speaker at the first ever US Fluttercon. Was at the one in Berlin last year. And I'm just also honored to be here to follow up on so many other great talks. And Eric yesterday, kicking off us all with his keynote. If you heard his keynote, how many people heard his talk yesterday? Good, fair amount. So I think you're going to find some consistent themes, and I think it's about where we are as a community right now and what's coming next. And I'm going to touch on a lot of very important things that he said yesterday, such as the importance of branded vanity license plates. No, but in all seriousness, it is a special moment for me to be here in New York City talking to all of you. My journey got started with Flutter back in 2017 when, for some reason, we convinced the team at Hamilton to try this thing no one had ever really heard of called Flutter. Hamilton, for those of you that have seen the show or know of it, is also a very New York rising up story in and of itself. And so I've always found that brand, that story, I think is descriptive of Flutter as well. Sort of, rising up, not throwing away your shot, all those things, right? So I think this is special, and Hamilton put Flutter on the map for a lot of people, and certainly had a big impact on us. Since then, VGV's just been on a crazy journey, and that's all because of Flutter. Over the last 7 years, we've had a chance to work with so many companies, teams, people, individuals. This is just a small portion of them that we could fit on a slide. And without a doubt, Flutter has changed my life. It's changed the life of people on my team. It's changed the life of many of the people in this room. And so I wanted to actually just take a quick ask, how many people here benefits in some way, professionally or personally, from Flutter? Not surprising, that is Fluttercon, right? So that one was kind of a gimme for sure. Yeah, right? Flutter's had a huge impact on a lot of people, and it's grown quite a lot. So, over the years, Flutter's now become, depending on what stats you look at and other things, but I think we can all agree it's become a very, very popular mobile framework, if not the most popular framework to develop cross-platform or multi-platform apps. In fact, for VGV, just as an anecdote, we've grown 5,000% since we started as a company, and that's all because of Flutter. Flutter did that for us, and I think for a lot of other teams and companies out there. So Flutter has definitely had a huge impact on a lot of people. But there's obstacles. This is just despite all the success, it doesn't mean that we've made it, right? There's still a lot of work to do. And so for instance, I think that there's a lot of things really blocking adoption of Flutter right now. And let's get one out of the way right now. Let's just talk about it openly as a community. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. So I want to ask you, what is the number one thing people fear about getting involved in the Flutter ecosystem? Anyone want to throw something out? What if Google kills it? Right? All right, another show of hands. Who's tired of hearing this question? Who thinks it's crazy and ridiculous, right? I find it completely ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. For all the reasons that we were already talking about. I look at the community, I look at all the work that's been done, I look at the client successes that we've had as a business, I think of all the apps and all the work that are done, the vibrancy of the community, all the open source commitments and content, and everything like that, right? But there it is, right? We still hear it. It's annoying. But why, right? And let's unpack it. I want to really unpack this for just a second, and in particular get around Google's role in the ecosystem, right? So first of all, let's talk about what Google's done for us here. They created it, right? They made it. They gave it to us for free. They open sourced it so that we can contribute to it, right? It's not proprietary. It doesn't require a license, right? They invested heavily in its growth, right? all these cool events. Flutter Interact was 5 years ago. It's crazy. 2019, pre-COVID. They've invested in this tool and this growth and its adoption and making it what it is and all these new things. And I think they continue to invest heavily in its future, despite the rumors, right? You see Michael Thompson's tweet, like, no change in roadmap, let's get back to work. They use it themselves. They literally eat their own dog food, to use that phrase. For important apps, Google Pay, right? Google Earth, Google Ads, Google Classroom, a lot of important apps. And so what I ask is, like, what else do we want from them? What else can Google do? I think they send a lot of signals that they believe in Flutter and that Flutter's here to stay and it's an important framework, right? So what do people really want from Google when it comes to Flutter? But here's the thing. I don't think Google can solve this. I don't think that this is a problem that Google has the capacity or the ability to solve. For the people that worry about this, there's literally nothing we can say or do to make that fear go away. Google could come out tomorrow and say, you know what? We're going to put $1 billion into Flutter over the next 25 years. This is never going to go away. And people would be like, nah, I don't believe that. They're going to kill that idea too, right? So there's literally no amount of promise or investment that will ever make people happy. It will never be enough. But that doesn't mean we should just ignore it, right? How do we solve this? And I think only we, the people in this room, the community, can solve this. Google can't solve this problem. Only we, as a community, can solve this problem. It's up to us, not Google, and I think that's really important. So you see, I think there's this problem where people hear Flutter and they see Google, but that's not it, right? It's not just Google. Flutter's so much more than Google, right? So I think to solve this issue, we need to really demonstrate the strength of the community around it. We need more investment from the community around it. We need to balance the ratio of how people perceive the strength and where the innovation is coming from and where the support for Flutter is coming from. We solve it by investing in our ecosystem. We solve it by sharing, by talking, by getting more enterprises. And we have to tackle challenges that Google cannot tackle themselves. So we overcome that critical barrier by showing that it's not just Google, it's all of us in this room. And so how do we do that? I want to get an idea of what success might look like. And so I wanted to just call out a key distinction between Flutter and React Native in terms of how it's communicated and how people maybe perceive it. So on the left, you see this from flutter.dev, and it says, supported by Google, open to everyone. It's a nice phrase, right? Flutter is open source, it's open to everyone, that's great. But meta-supported, community-driven, right? It's a nuance, it's a subtle difference, but I think that means all the difference in the world, right? Now, we could just open up our text editor and just change the HTML, right? Problem solved, community-driven. But that's not it, right? That's not believable. Even if Google says it, no one's going to believe it, right? So we have to earn it. We have to do it ourselves as a community and earn that right. To be sure, I do want to take a step back and say that so much is already happening in the Flutter community. So many people, thousands of people all over the world are doing code contributions. They're contributing packages to pub, right? Investing in open source content, events like this, thanks to Greg and the team, meetups, and being Google developer experts and just general advocacy, right? There's so much work already happening in the Flutter community, and that's amazing. And round of applause for everybody who's doing that, if you don't mind, because I think so many people are doing a lot of hard work, right? So the community is what's made Flutter great, and I think that's really important to recognize. But I do think that we can be even more community-driven, right? I think that there is an opportunity to not necessarily do more, but to show up more, maybe. Like tell our stories a little bit better, be a little bit more organized. I also think that there's business problems, as Eric was alluding to yesterday. It's not about Flutter as a technology, it's about Flutter as a business tool. It's about how it makes an impact on the users, the products, the businesses that are investing and funding these products we're making with them. And those are problems that Google can't solve because Google makes the tool. They are not the craftsmen that use the tool. We are the ones that have to solve those challenges. So today, and the purpose of this discussion and some of the things we're going to kick off is I'd like to say that maybe this is the beginning of a new phase of the Flutter community. And the way that we can start that new phase is, I think, by being better aligned and coordinating our strengths and efforts to be bigger. Because we individually are small companies. It's very hard to compare any of us to Google. They're massive, right? Flutter's a tiny little piece of Google. Google's an enormous company. But what we can do is we can align our strengths, be better organized our priorities, align what we're working on, where we're spending our investments, what we're going to do, and how we're going to grow the commercial strength of this ecosystem. Because what we all want is jobs and revenue, right? And profit. These are the things that we all want and that the companies that we work with want. And so I think what we need to do is become a little bit better aligned. So how do we get started on that? And my idea for this is that I think as a community, we need some sort of commercial roadmap. We need something that describes the things we're going to do to orient what we're working on collectively as a community and drive some more commercial growth for everything that we're doing. So what is a commercial roadmap, right? What does that mean? So like anyone would do these days, I put it into Gemini and asked Gemini, what is a commercial roadmap? And so what Gemini says, unfortunately, this lined up with my perception of it too, so that was lucky. A commercial roadmap outlines the strategic initiatives necessary for nurturing and expanding the business ecosystem and community, fostering mutually beneficial partnerships, and driving overall market adoption and growth. Okay? I think we can all get on board with that, right? Like, I think that's useful to us as a community because we all want growth. We want Flutter to grow, we want more market adoption, we want better partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. So I was also thinking about this in the context of a roadmap we already have. We have the Flutter project roadmap that is part of the Flutter repo on GitHub. You can check it out. The Google team and many of the core contributors, every year they get together and they set a roadmap for the project, for Flutter overall, for the code. And the idea here is to set some expectation of like, what are the priorities? What are the things that the core contributors are going to work on or should work on or would work on? And set expectations both for what you might want to have happen, but also things that maybe we're not going to spend time on. So if you're doing an interesting application of Flutter that's maybe more on the fringes, it's helpful to know that you're maybe not going to get the support from Google directly that other platforms might. So again, it sets priorities, it sets expectations, and you kind of know what to expect in the year ahead. But what if we had a complement to that roadmap that was for all the other stuff, all the things outside of the code base, right? All the things that we need to do as users, consumers, and owners of Flutter code bases to make Flutter more successful, because we need Flutter to be more successful, right? That's how we grow our businesses and how we make sure that we're stable and secure going forward. Now, of course, we don't have a community-driven commercial roadmap yet. We don't know where to start. How do we get that going? There's a lot of voices. There's a lot of different people out there. So I was thinking about how do we get this started, right? Do we have a big summit and we invite business leaders from all over the place? And that seems like a lot of work. Maybe we'll get there. So how do we get started first? I said, well, in our position at VGV, we get to talk to a lot of community participants. We work with a lot of clients. We have a lot of engineers. And so we have some idea of what at least we think matters to us. And so today, and this is on our GitHub right now, we're open sourcing our Flutter commercial roadmap for the next year. Now, this is just our roadmap. It's our ideas. It's not tested with anyone else. We haven't necessarily gone out and done a lot of research yet. We'd love to do that. More coming on that soon. But what we wanted to do is we just wanted to give you some idea of the things that we think are important, that we have identified as things that are blocking Flutter's growth. And of course, as a company super tied to Flutter's growth, we want to make sure that we're doing things that are increasing the size of the pond, that are raising the tides, lifting all the boats, and making Flutter better overall. We have limited resources, and so we need to make sure we're aligned. So for us, this roadmap is about a few things. Number one, transparency. We believe in open source, we believe in transparency, we believe in sharing, because us protecting and keeping things internally, that only helps us. We need to document and share with the world, because maybe that inspires others. Maybe it gives you an idea of something we're working on, and if you were thinking about working on that too, either you could collaborate with us, or maybe you work on something else, because if we're already working on it, maybe you can put your efforts somewhere else. But ideally, it would inspire some collaboration. We also want to work with intentionality. as the course of the year goes by, lots of things change, come and go. We want to make sure we have some degree of focus, and so that we set a line in the sand to start the year of like, hey, these are the things we think are important. These are the things we think we should invest our time in, and so that we can be smart, prioritized, aligned, and effective in how we want to go forward. And the last is collaboration. We want to share what we think is important so that if any of you think it's important too, we can come together and talk about it, and maybe we can work on it together. And similarly, if we had ideas of what other people found interesting, maybe we could align on that too and bring some of our resources to bear against those opportunities. So today, for the rest of this talk, what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through our provisional roadmap, right? The things that we've identified as key priorities, some actions we intend to take, some degree of commitment to you all, or putting it out in the public and saying we're going to do these things, and that creates a little sort of social pressure to deliver. And then we're going to ask for some help. So let me take you through 4 goals we've identified for this commercial roadmap. The first is improving engagement and collaboration within the community. It's great we have events like this. I think we have a pretty active community. As I mentioned, a lot of people participate in it. It's amazing. But I think we can do better. I think we can have more engagement, in particular from companies and teams that maybe aren't showing up at these types of events, that maybe haven't historically gone to meetups. So we need more of that in our world. And I think we can do more together if we combine our efforts. The next goal is, how do we grow Flutter market adoption? Now, that's kind of an obvious goal, right? But despite Flutter's success, I think we're still quite early. I mean, I think it's pretty easy for those of you that have been in the community for a long time to look around and be like, wow, look at how many developers and look at how many apps are built, and we've made it, and we still got a lot of work to do. And for me, that comes down to confidence in Flutter, which we'll get into in a bit. The other one is we need to make sure that we're focusing on increasing our commercial and economic outcomes. A lot of Flutter's growth is focused on the tool, what it's capable of, how we as developers enjoy it, the developer experience. All of these things are vital and important. But at the end of the day, if we're not generating revenue, driving margin, increasing profit, if we're not doing these things, then Flutter doesn't have a future. Because at the end of the day, we're working for companies, right? We're creating tools that people use to do valuable activities with. So we have to demonstrate that and create more of those, because that creates the flywheel that drives more investment back into the Flutter community. And lastly, I think we need to look at the capabilities of Flutter. We need to figure out how do we advance the use cases of where we can use Flutter and differentiate it from other solutions. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to walk you through a series of each one of those goals, where I'm going to kind of identify a key pain point we've identified, our sort of priority focus of how we're going to tackle that, some actions that VGV you can expect us to be doing over the next year, and maybe some ideas to get you all thinking around how could you participate and work towards those goals. Again, you can have your own goals, you can have your own pain points and focus on your own things. We at this stage are not trying to set that priority for the community. More on that in a second. But we want to get the conversation started. So let's talk about the first one, community engagement and collaboration. This is how we started, right? This is the thing we were just talking about. I think we do have this issue of this anxiety from the perceived reliance on Google. And I don't think we've overcome it yet as a community, obviously, because everyone's still talking about it. So what can we do? We sit around and we say, what can VGV or any other company do to address this anxiety? And I think what we have to do is we have to organize the community and align our commercial priorities, right? So this talk is a thing we're going to do, right? And we're going to do more of them, hopefully. We want to start this conversation, and we want to think about what are the ways that we can move beyond what the community is doing right now and embark on this new phase. The next thing is also what we've done today, is to publish, but now we want to seek your feedback. That's why we wanted to put it on GitHub. We wanted to open source it. It's open to comments and issues, right? We want to hear from you, and we want to start this engagement. It's one thing for us to work on it. It's another thing to hear from you guys and get some feedback around what we want to do. And then the last thing we want to do is we want to organize some more community forums, right? Actually, this is not quite the one. Yeah, there's one more. We want to organize these forums because we want to have some discussions. So keep an eye out for this. Follow us on our socials and stuff like that. And we're going to be reaching out to our clients and other companies we know around how do we set up more routine moments throughout the year where we can come together and discuss the things that we all think are important. Again, not about the Flutter code base itself, but about the issues around it that we can help to unlock and grow this community. And then the last thing is that I would love to, at this stage, or wherever it's going to be, Next year, have a community-inspired roadmap. That's not just our opinions, not just our ideas, but a collection and a consensus and an organized roadmap from all the things from the community of what do we think actually together are the biggest priorities and biggest obstacles. So that's a big commitment for us, is we want to do all the work to bring people together, have open dialogue and discussion, and provide a roadmap that truly is that complement to the project roadmap that helps us unlock the business opportunities of this ecosystem. So what can you do? Or things we would say as ideas, right? I'm not saying you have to, but would love your feedback. There is a first issue on the repo that we opened today, which is about interest in collaborating on these ideas. Give us feedback on our roadmap and get involved. But the other thing is, please, we'd love to hear from you. Share your own priorities in whatever form. If you want to create a roadmap kind of idea like this, that'd be awesome. But write it down. Document the things that you think are important that we haven't tackled yet, or that there are big opportunities that if someone were to go after, even if you think it's some special business idea that you alone have a unique insight and you want to build something around, you know what? Ideas are cheap. It's the execution that matters. And what I've found is that when you share ideas and you share content, you're likely to find other people that are willing to work with you and make those ideas more possible. So write them down, get them out there. And then collaborate with us. So we'd love for you to, you can contact us, you can meet any of the team, you can engage with us, add your name to the list, volunteer, share your ideas. Let's get this conversation started, right? Like, let's start this conversation to actually understand what all the companies out there are thinking and are worried about, or where they see big opportunity. Okay, so the next one is confidence. So we need more people, right, to use Flutter, and we need more engineers. We need more teams using it. And if they're not confident in it, they're not going to use it. And there's many ways that we can build up that confidence. Proof points, adoption rates, charts like I showed earlier, case studies from large enterprise companies and stuff like that. There's many that we can go after. So this is a good example of something where we are choosing to prioritize a pain point, but there are many. And I think that there are lots of opportunities for people to go after. And so one pain point we've identified that is interesting is that for some reason we still keep coming across companies that, how do I say this politely? Maybe they don't do it totally right. And so what happens is they get started, there's timelines, there's pressure, they have past preconceived notions of things they've done in the past, or patterns or architectures they could follow. And they get in there and they start working with Flutter, and they're just not getting that performance, right? All these great benefits that are promised from Flutter, hot reload, 50% of the time it'll take me to build it. And you're like, I'm not getting that result. Like, why? And so what could happen, though, is they blame the tool. And that could be really damaging, because you have the tool and then you have how you use it, the techniques you use. But we've seen this a lot. And we see companies walk away from Flutter, not because the tool is bad, but because they didn't know how to use it right. And what's worse is that then they could go tell their friends, don't use Flutter. It's bad. Doesn't have good performance. What they're actually saying is, don't use Flutter because I didn't know what I was doing. And so this is really important, and I think it's solvable. And by the way, I don't think it's because they're not good engineers, or that I think that there's a lot of pressures that go into this, and there's a lot of content out there, and there's a lot of noise, right? So one of the things we want to continue to commit to at VGV that I'd love for the community to think about too is we need to continue to improve access to high quality information and tools for Flutter teams to get started right, and to follow scalable best practices. And to be clear, I'm talking about like large, complex enterprise applications, right? Large, complex teams where there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of things we need to sort through. So here's a few things that we're going to do. One, we're going to continue to commit to great OSS. One thing I think we're really proud about at VGV is that OSS has been an important part of our culture. Thank you. Driven by a lot of the core people on our team who also believe in that. And I think great OSS is super important. We have to continue to support OSS. We have to continue to produce it. But importantly, what I mean by great, I don't just mean like really high quality code, but tools that actually help us to be great, to help us to be better, tools that help to reinforce good code quality, tools that help us to do things faster and in more scalable ways. we're going to also prioritize engaging in more forms of discussion around these issues. We've talked about sort of opening up some of our own communities or chat groups where we can kind of communicate with teams, bringing in more teams and kind of like making access to our team more available. But there's also a lot of communities that already exist out there, like the study groups and things. But we're going to prioritize getting more involved in these forums and making sure that our time and our team availability is more available to the rest of the community in the world that's out there. Thank you. I like you. You're fun. And then the last thing is we're also announcing a new website that we're launching. It's engineering.verygood.ventures. And on this site is a cool picture of a unicorn, of course. And but actually what it is it's a open list of all the things we could think of, right? In terms of our philosophies, our best practices, our standards. It's not just, tools that we use. It's about our culture of how we believe code should be written, how we work together, the contracts between each other as we're doing these things, how we handle a lot of different things. Our objective here is to be super transparent. We want to put our ideas out there in the world. You don't have to agree with them. I know a lot of you probably don't. We like 100% test coverage. On Twitter, I know that's a thing that people talk about, right? We like block. I know that's a flame war that we could start right now, right? If we want to start talking about, state management. You don't have to agree, and that's cool. But what we want to do is we want to put what we learn as we work on all these different projects, and not just projects that we fully control. A lot of times we're working with big companies who have their own ideas, and we're trying to help them figure out what they're going to do. And so how do we learn from all these experiences to make sure that the probability of success and scale and long-term high-quality outcome is as high as possible? And if we keep that just to ourselves, yeah, maybe there's some strategic advantage or branding thing that comes with that, but I don't think that's the defensible differentiation. So the best thing that we can do is make it available to everyone, right? If we learn something, if we, just like when you would do a post-mortem or something after a project, you got to document it, you got to write it down, because if you don't document it or write it down, how's anybody else going to learn? How are you going to move on? We see that with the whole community. We need to document this, put it out there to the world, let others learn from it. If you disagree, that's cool, go your own way. But at least we put it out there so you had those ideas, so that if even one person or one team can benefit from these ideas and build something great that helps rise the tide of this community, awesome. So that's live right now. I'm going to have QR codes and stuff like that at the end if you want to check that out. But this is just the beginning. We're not done. We're going to, over the course of the year, and as long into the future as we can, continue to update, add new content, new ideas. We've talked about, it's not just engineering, right? It's what about design best practices and interaction with designers or product management, all these different things. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll be doing some more. So what else can we do as a community? So I encourage you to do the same thing. Even if you're a one-person team, write it down. Put it on the internet. Why not? At least it'll go into the LLM, right? Share it, put it out there. What do you have to lose? Literally nothing. And the way that we improve the overall knowledge of what we're doing and make other teams more confident and more safe building with Flutter is to share our ideas. The other thing I would encourage everyone to do is, I don't know that we need another getting started with Flutter blog post, right? I think what we need is, so you're a 500-person team, and you have this application that's been running for 15 years, and you have an incredibly gnarly back-end stack, and how do you start to get Flutter into your organization? These are advanced concepts. They're hard to write. They're hard to get exposure to these experiences, but these are the things we need. Because it's not hard to get a new startup onto Flutter. It's super hard to get a very large enterprise organization with a lot of technology debt to make a big choice like this. So we have to make it easy for them. We have to write these stories. They're hard to write, but we have to write them. And then the next thing is sponsor, contribute to, right? And if you're a company that has an SDK or an API, create first-party OSS. We have to make sure that the tools we use, the packages we have, are trusted, are high quality, are premium, so that when you build something, you have a lot of confidence that what you're going to do is going to be right and you get the right outcome. Because again, what we're trying to avoid here is you spend a bunch of time working with Flutter, you don't get the result, you blame the tool. All right, next one, motoring along. So the other one is commercial benefit, economic impact. Who here would like to make more money? Who here's business, cares about revenue or profit? Right? Yeah. So obviously we need to make a heavy emphasis on how Flutter drives those things, right? Because that's how we attract engineers, it's how we attract more companies to our ecosystem. And so one pain we've identified for the community, I think, that we'd like to spend a lot of our time focusing on is that there's a lot of big brands out there, right? We see these, these slides that we show with all these big names on it, and you read in the media about, oh, it's this so-and-so's company working with Flutter. There's not that many of them in this room. You want to see this problem that I'm describing here on the slide firsthand, just go upstairs. Right? No offense to, we're just getting started, right? There's a lot of work to do, but you go up there, I see Uber, I see X, I see Disney Plus, right? I see Qualcomm. Down here, I see VGV. And I'm happy with that, don't get me wrong. I like that. But we're a small company, We need these companies that we work with, that we know are in the ecosystem, investing in Flutter, relying on Flutter. We need them to be part of our community. We need their voices, we need their support, and we need their investment, right? So what are we gonna do to bring them in? Because maybe they just don't know. Everyone I meet is super happy to get involved. They're just maybe not sure, or maybe it's not a clear priority, because my interest in growing the Flutter community is pretty obvious, right? But if you're a company, a large company using Flutter, that's an ends to a mean maybe, and maybe it's a jump, a leap to understand why involvement in this community is important for the long run for what you're trying to do at that business. So we want to drive greater corporate and large enterprise engagement and investment in the Flutter community. And so what are some of the ways that we can do that using our platform and using what we're available? So first is we can incentivize clients to create case studies. We have these contracts we sign with clients. They're always looking for ways to save money, right? That gives us a little bit of leverage. It also creates an opportunity every time we're talking to them or thinking about how we can work together to tell them about the importance of making sure that the work we do goes public. A lot of the work that we do, if you look at our annual recaps or the brands listed on our website or our case studies, those things are generally a year old or more. And the reason is because to get approval to talk about it, it has to go through like 37 layers of like marketing and corporate approval, and also they just kind of don't care. It's like doesn't really help them if VGV has a case study, but it helps us a lot, right? And most importantly, I think it helps the Flutter community. So we want to make sure that we put in that extra effort to make sure that we're not just incentivizing through money or credits or offsets or whatever, but making sure they understand the value of telling these stories. The next is pro bono marketing support to create enterprise content. And what I mean by this is that we invest in creating marketing content. We think it's important. We want to tell our stories. We have people that are really good at telling those stories. Our clients or other enterprise, maybe again, they don't really understand, they don't care, they don't see the value, maybe they don't have a marketing team attached to them, they don't have an author, they don't like to write, they're not sure where to put it, maybe they don't have an engineering blog. There's just all these obstacles and impediments to telling these stories. So what we want to do is we want to eliminate that obstacle if we can. So we're just throwing that out there. We don't have to be mentioned. We don't have to be named. It doesn't have to be on our blog post. We don't care. We don't care about credit. What we want is the story to be out there. We want more people to be able to grab a hold of that story and say, hey, this amazing company is doing amazing things and have an amazing impact with Flutter. So we're here to say if you or anybody, companies that are out there, and the barrier is like, oh, well, how am I going to get the time to write it? We'll do it for you. Just give us a call. The last thing is, 5 years since the last conference around Flutter that I'm aware of in New York City, if not the US. How many conferences have there been in Europe in that time frame? A lot. A lot, right? But there's so much activity in the US around Flutter. There's a lot of big companies in the US building with Flutter. There's a lot of money around Flutter in the US. So I do think we need to wake up the US community. I don't think we've ever really recovered from COVID, frankly, as a community here. Like a lot of the meetups went dormant. They haven't really come back. And there haven't been as many conferences. So this is super awesome that we're getting it started right here. And so one of the things that we're going to commit to is, and sorry, Greg, please don't be too hard on us because I'm definitely eroding our negotiation ability here, but we're going to sponsor at least 3 conferences in the United States that are either directly or adjacently related to Flutter. That's our commitment. We want to show up. We're going to tell the story. We're going to put up, thank you. And crucially, it's not just Fluttercons. It's showing up at conferences where no one has heard of Flutter. I think that's super important because we can show up here, and a lot of you maybe know us. Maybe you recognize the unicorn logo. Certainly you've heard of Flutter, right? What we need to do is find people that haven't heard about Flutter and make them aware that they're missing out on something great. And they better get on board because the competition who's picking up Flutter is going to be outpacing them pretty soon if they're not careful, right? So conferences. So what can we do to drive commercial opportunities? Again, tell your stories. If you work for a company that is using Flutter, but maybe you're not necessarily a services business or something like that, make it a priority for marketing. Make them understand that, like, hey, look, we chose this tool, right? And our business is now reliant on this tool, and we have a vested interest in making sure that this tool continues to grow and continues to be more impactful and more powerful. And I know we got to talk to our customers, and we got limited marketing budgets, but we got to tell this story. Oh, and by the way, there's this company VGV that will do it for us, right? But let's get out there. Whether you're a service provider, whether you're working for a company that's using Flutter for your product, like, we got to tell these stories, and would love to have more of you doing that. Create business. Oh, sorry. And some examples of this, just real quick, right? Geico. Who read that Geico article or seen that, right? It was very cool. If you haven't, go check it out. Go Google Geico Flutter. I was talking with some of the Google team. This was organic. The Google team didn't know that was going to come out. But the thing is, that's so much more impactful. Like, I'll take one of those over 10 showcase things on flutter.dev. Because it's cool when we talk about it. It's great. We need more of that stuff up there. But, if it's on the Flutter website, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, they're trying to promote it. But when a company like Geico comes out and just organically says, Flutter's amazing, this is the framework for our future, for innovation, and for optimization of what we're doing, and they put that stake in the ground, that is so helpful for us. And we need to retweet the hell out of that, right? Or re-exit? What do you say? That's weird. The other one is like Universal, right? Like, love this. When they launched that, they, a lot of the team. So this isn't just corporate proof; it's like individual social proof from the people behind these things and what they're doing. I also want to call attention to Sam, who's here from Betterment, and we're going to have a talk later. We have a lot of really cool things that we're going to be talking about in there, and I really actually, Sam's in the back. So can we give Sam a quick round of applause, because I don't think any other company that I'm aware of has done as much to try to further what I'm talking about right here, as Betterment. They've put a lot of effort. They had a Google developer story made. They've definitely collaborated a lot with us over the years, and they've never shied away from getting involved in telling their story and trying to get others on board with what they've done. So they're just a really good example of I think, a team and some leadership there who's really helped to see that it's not just use the tool and get the outcome. It's like, use the tool and make sure that we evangelize what we're doing. One other thing I want to say. Creating business content. Eric talked about this in his talk yesterday. It's not just about the technology, not just how cool Hot Reload is. It's about that this creates real business impact. So I want to call out LeanCode and thank them for their CTO survey. This was a great way to get these conversations started, to really show that it's not just about performance of your code base or your app. It's about how the business world sees these things. If we want to grow this, we can't just talk to developers. We got to talk to CEOs and design leaders and product leaders and business people, not just engineers. So thank you guys for that. Really appreciate that. Yeah, go for it. The other one is sponsor. If you can, find a way to get involved in anything. I'm not just talking about like sponsoring OSS repos, although that's super important. But like these types of events, making sure that we all get behind these things and making sure that we put our logos on these, that we get our clients involved in these. And in particular, if you're a service provider, have the conversation with your client and say, hey, let's find a way to bring you guys and get you involved in this community. And then the last one I wanted to touch on is the importance of job posts. So jobs. We hear this weird thing from our clients, I can't find Flutter engineers. And then what's weird is we hear from Flutter engineers like, oh, I can't find jobs. It's kind of weird, right? I think there are a lot of jobs out there. I just did a quick just Google search for Flutter jobs just on a single day. It's like last Tuesday or something. And I got a lot of jobs. This is just a small smattering of them. And from pretty cool companies too, like Geico and Ford. Ford, what are they doing? They're doing something with Flutter. They're hiring for it. They're not here recruiting developers. Should be, right? What are they doing? Let's find out. Let's talk to them. Let's get them involved, right? SoFi, a lot of Flutter flow down here, and there's a lot of good stuff. So the point is, around jobs, is that if you see a job, talk about it. If you see somebody hiring, don't be like, ooh, it's my seat. I'm going to apply to this job, and I don't want to tell anyone. No. Put it out there. Make sure people know. Make sure people understand how vibrant this is, how there are great job opportunities, and that there are a lot of companies hiring. Don't just rely on Greenhouse or something to get your job post out there. Like, make sure your marketing team is sharing it out, because one thing about our community is we grew a lot during COVID, right? And so we're distributed. We're a lot of a remote culture. There's not necessarily a huge concentration of like New York City talent and stuff like that. So it's just very important we talk about that. All right, how am I doing on time? I don't know when we started. What time did we start? Does it matter? Whatever. I'm almost done, I promise. Last one is capability. This one's kind of fun too. So, interesting thing we observed. Flutter is still used mostly, like who uses Flutter for mobile? Who uses Flutter for anything other than mobile? Okay, all right. All right, well, never mind. We'll just skip by this one. No, I'm just kidding. But still, I think like we can all agree that for the most part, the primary use case of Flutter is mobile apps, right? All right, so I think though that's awesome because there's a lot of money there, but I think it's obscuring a key differentiation of Flutter. Flutter is multi-platform, and I always applauded Google for making this distinction. It was a little confusing in the beginning because I think people are used to the word cross-platform. But multi-platform is different to me than cross-platform. Cross-platform is mobile, iOS and Android. The thing is that if we talk about Flutter just in the context of cross-platform, it's now apples to apples with all these other tools that are in fact cross-platform. If we stretch the perception of Flutter to its true multi-platform nature, now it's apples to oranges because Flutter can go places that those other tools can't go, right? So I think we have to be really careful to make sure that we call out that distinction, that we don't just like fall into the cross-platform description and definition alone because there's so much more power to Flutter. So what we want to do when we think about where can we invest in demos or tools or new things this year is really showcase Flutter's true multi-platform potential beyond mobile, because it's really this everywhere framework, right? That is super amazing, and it can go to all these cool places. And fortunately, we get to work with like Toyota and some other companies that are really pushing the boundaries of where Flutter goes, literally, because it's a car and it can drive around. So what can we do, right? So we want to prioritize client projects that showcase these 10? Is that 5 or 10? 10. All right, cool. Plenty of time. We want to prioritize client projects showcasing novel Flutter applications. And so what we mean by that is that if we have an opportunity to do something really cool with Flutter, but maybe like the margin doesn't quite work or it's like not the greatest project in the world, let's do it. Because we got to do it. We got to do these projects that get out there in the world. And that's where we, in our platform, have an opportunity to invest in certain things that we think are important to, again, raising the tide. We want to publish content about non-mobile use cases. A lot of what we talk about is mobile. A lot of what we do is about mobile apps. But we got to make sure that in our roadmap of content we're going to create, we talk about things that aren't just mobile. We talk about web. We talk about desktop. We talk about Linux. And we talk about, I've been saying to my team for a long time, like, Flutter should be everywhere. It should be on the Jumbotron at Madison Square Garden, right? It should be on the parking meter display, although those are kind of gone, so take that one away. It should be on any little device, like a signage in the elevator, right? The Captivate screens. All of these things could be Flutter. How do we get there? How do we tell that story? We got to do it. Last is investing in open source demos and content that showcases inspirational use cases in this area. So this one, I'm pretty psyched about. So we built, as an example of this, what we assume to be the world's first Flutter boombox. It's actually at our booth, so you can come check it out later. And so what this is it is a display. We ripped out the cassette deck of the boombox, took out all the guts. We replaced the cassette deck with a screen, and we created this fun little Flutter screen that basically mimics a cassette deck. I know most people probably have no idea what this is, but at one point you had music on these little rectangular things with tape, and they were mechanical, and it was like super wonky. But now this is a Spotify Connect speaker with a Flutter UI. And how we did it is we used a Raspberry, inside, there's a Raspberry Pi, it's running Linux, it uses Spotify Connect, MQTT for event handling, and of course, Flutter for the UI. So we did this to demonstrate that Flutter can do cool shit, right? We can do things beyond mobile apps. We can put Flutter in places that are unexpected, even like, decades old technology. So it's fun. These are the things we want to do to get people thinking, right? To get people thinking beyond what Flutter can do, that if I've got this Flutter expertise on my team already, it doesn't just make them the mobile team, it makes them the everything team. So what can we do here? Go beyond mobile. If you have some extra time, if you're thinking about a weekend project, maybe try to do something a little different, right? Maybe try to think about, how can I do something on a watch or on a tractor? How can I do something in a car? How can I do something, on a boombox? This technology is available to us. We can do it. Flutter makes us have all these capabilities. So go beyond mobile. Also pitch your leadership, or if you're a services business, pitch your clients about that. They can't fund what they don't know exists or is possible. You got to tell them. We have to tell them that, hey, we've got this whole huge Flutter team, and over there you're funding this whole other crazy team that's doing this really bespoke thing for this, kiosk we need or something. Like, we could just do it, So you got to pitch. We got to pitch. We got to tell our leadership. We got to tell our clients that this stuff is capable. What it's capable of. And this is the area also where I think we actually can contribute to the Flutter project roadmap. As I mentioned before, it calls out priorities and expectations and sort of where our investment's going to go as a community in the Flutter project itself. But these smaller edge cases maybe are the things that aren't the biggest priorities, but these are the areas where we actually can get involved. These are the areas where if you have a cool idea, and maybe it's not a priority, that doesn't mean that it's not important or valuable. It actually is saying, this is a cool spot where you could actually make an impact on the broader ecosystem and community to go in and fill some of those gaps. And I think that's why they put out that roadmap, so that you know what to expect from the core contributors and identify gaps and opportunities where we all could help and contribute to the core. So to recap, we want to improve engagement and collaboration in the community. We've got our roadmap for that. We really encourage everyone to participate in that and help us out. We want to focus on Flutter market adoption. For us, that's making sure that anybody who gets started with Flutter has a great experience and that there should be no reason to abandon Flutter because of quality. Certainly because of quality that is user error, let's say. Increase commercial and economic outcomes, and for us, that's just we got to get our clients on board, involved in these communities, telling their stories. We got to get even non-clients, right? Anybody out there who's a big company, we want to find them and help them tell their story. And lastly, we got to push the boundaries and make sure that Flutter's seen as the everywhere framework, not as an alternative to React Native. So, recap. What did we do today? Hopefully, get the conversation started. That was my number one goal today, was just put these ideas out there so that we all start talking and thinking, what can we do to really tackle the critical opportunities and barriers to our growth? We wanted to share our roadmap, hopefully jumpstart ideas. Again, it's ours. We'd love collaboration. We welcome you to have your own ideas and to publish your own roadmaps and set your own priorities and share them with others. We'd love to have more collaboration, more cooperation. For me, collaboration beats competition every single time, right? So I think what we need is more collaboration, more coordination, so that we can actually orient towards the things that we really need to tackle together as a group. Encourage you to share your own priorities, and lastly, to work together on this shared roadmap for next year and for every year going on into the future. So to wrap up, as I was thinking about this presentation, I kept thinking about this scene in Finding Nemo. There's this idea of sort of coordination and alignment, and this tension we have with Google being the big animal in the room, right? we're all a bunch of smaller companies. We can never hope to have the strength of Google. I mean, the probability of someone ever becoming that big is so infinitesimally small. But we don't have to be that big because we're a community. And if we can just pick the direction we want to go in, and we can all swim in the same direction, right? And collect our strengths, collaborate, put our strengths towards a collective purpose, then we can like free ourselves, right, from these constraints, free ourselves of these obstacles that are holding us back and do more, and create more opportunity for all of us and push the community forward. So thank you all very much for listening to me today. I hope you'll join us in some of these efforts, and I hope that we as a community can come together because we have so much opportunity ahead of us and there's so much more that we can do. So yeah, thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for your collaboration. Here's some of the links. The boombox is out at our booth, so go give it a check out, and thanks a lot.